So, Jeff, I understand that this movie came to you in a little bit of a different way than some of your other projects. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved in Loving?
Sure. Well, this is the fifth film I've made. All the other four I've written from scratch, totally just invented. And this one was based on real people. So the way it came to me was through the documentary, Nancy Bursky's documentary, The Loving Story, which was on HBO. And actually, the first person to call about it was Martin Scorsese. My agent called and said, Martin Scorsese wants to talk to you. I said, I want to talk to him. And he was just a friend of the project and asked me to pay attention to it, which of course I did. And as soon as I sat down and watched the documentary, I started to form opinions about how I would approach it, and I was off to the races. It's kind of an undeniable story.
And it's such a timely story, I think, now between the gay marriage situation that is still sort of controversial,
Sure.
and also the racial tension in the country. Did you know that the timing was going to be right around the election and all of that in terms of the release?
We hadn't planned it around the election. And unfortunately, it's not hard to sit back and say, well, these are going to be issues by the time this film comes out. I was approached in 2012 to write this. And at the time, marriage equality was the big issue because they were going state by state, trying to overturn these laws. And I think I just sadly knew that racial issues were going to always be present. I grew up in Arkansas. This is something our country has to deal with and will be dealing with for quite some time. And what I found in The Lovings was a way to teach us how to have these conversations. I think so often these conversations are politicized, and we go to our corners and take our positions. We have our platforms, liberal, conservative, whatever it is, and we very often forget the humans at the center of these. And because Richard and Mildred didn't have a political motive, they just loved each other. And they were very simple people. I think they're a great example to remind us to think about people. And before you get so heated and you get up to your microphone or on your soapbox, think about the fact that you're going to be talking about people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, they were very much concerned with their own lives and being married to each other and being with their families, and clearly not activists.
Right.
Did that make their story more interesting for you, do you think?
I don't know about more interesting because, I've read plenty of accounts of freedom riders and other things that are extraordinarily harrowing. It was easy to identify with Richard's position because I'm a white man and I try to provide for my family and love my wife and all of these things, and he was not allowed to do that. So that was something I could wrap my head around. This couple very much reminded me of my grandparents, but also though you have a character like Mildred that is, in a very quiet way, in a very elegant way, an activist in her own right. She was the one that started to understand, I think, the relevance of the situation that they were in. That doesn't mean you go and grab a sign and start to picket, but I think she did understand what was happening around them. The interesting thing about Richard and Mildred, though, is that the way they defied this law is just by staying married. They just loved one another. And I think there are a lot of ways to protest. And in this particular instance, they did it just by doing what came natural to them, which was being in love.
I came out of the movie feeling sort of a sense of hope and at the same time horror at, in a way, how good we can be, but also how bad we still are in so many ways as human beings.
Right.
What do you really want people to walk away with when they come out of the film?
Again, I want people to think about the people at the center of these debates. We have to think about our social constructs as things that come from humanity. And all you really need to say to yourself when you walk out of this movie is they loved each other. And just say it over and over and over again. Because I believe it was true. We live in pretty cynical times. But I think two people can actually love each other. I've seen it and I believe it. And I think it was true in this case.
I hope you're right.
I
Jeff,
am too.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.